So this past weekend, I played in the Utah Open, which is the precursor to the Utah State Championship if you win the Open section. However, I don't think I'm good enough to win the Utah Open section, so I played in the under 1600 section, which had a 75-minute with a 5-second delay increment, and let's just jump into it. So in my first round here, I play as black. He goes e4, I go into my Caro-Kann structure, and I'm feeling dandy. However, he goes with the fantasy variation. I don't normally play the fantasy variation, so when this happens, I really only know of one line, and that's going e5, which is a book move. The engine says it's an accuracy because you're slightly down no matter what. And usually I'm used to my opponent taking here on e5, and I have a couple lines that I know from there. So he takes there, I take here, which is an inaccuracy. I thought long and hard about this because he had a slight advantage the whole time. And I said, let's trade off the queens. He's gonna have this terrible pawn center. I think I will be able to just equalize just fine. So he takes, I take with the king. We got that terrible pawn center here. I go bishop to e6, he goes knight to f3, I go knight to d7, he goes bishop to e3. I'm trying to target this and hit on these weaknesses basically. So I go from here, knight to e7, looking to get my knight here and attack this pawn. And he brings the knight over here to d2. Now from here, I push up to b5, which is a blunder because all white has to do is push up here to a4. If I take here, it really ruins the structure and I'm in a worse off position because of that. What I should have done instead was instead of coming over here to b5, I should have just come back and I should have gone here and followed my plan of attacking this because you really didn't have anything to do here. We would trade off the bishops, you get there. But I'd be sitting pretty, I mean, we'd be more of an equalized position at this point. So I go b5, and luckily for me, he misses that move and pushes to c4, and I just fortify the position by going to a6. He's still slightly up in the evaluation bar, but my blunder wasn't realized. So he goes bishop to e2 here, I go knight to g6, he castles, I go bishop to c5, and we trade off the bishops. I kind of like my position at this point. I feel like I have a lot of piece activity. I just need to get my king castle, get my rooks in the game, and I'm feeling good. So he brings the rooks in. I bring the king over here to e7 because I don't have the castling ability, looking to get my rooks into the game. So my opponent goes knight to d4, looking to target the bishop and this pawn, and I defend that pawn with my rook over here to c8. The best move here actually would have gone rook h to c8 and getting this rook out of the corner and really looking at pushing on the minority side. So instead, I push to c8. He brings the knight over here to f5, looking to target this pawn. I say, nah, I'm just gonna trade off my bishop. I'm losing the bishop pair, it's okay. And he takes with the rook here, which is an inaccuracy on his part. You can see the evaluation bar is now it's come over to my side a little bit. I'm feeling pretty good. I just centralized the rook. He goes g3, stopping any advancement of my knights here. I'm looking to double up, going to d7, get my rook over here to d8, and really hammer on. And he brings out the knight here. I double up the rooks like my plan. That's a mistake. What I should have done instead was just take with rook to d1, bishop takes d1, and then I go rook to d8, targeting the bishop. Bishop comes over here to c2, and then I would take here. That was the best move. I didn't quite see that, obviously, but I don't feel like I'm that much worse for doubling up my rooks here. So after doubling up the rooks, we obviously trade off the rooks. He brings this knight in here, and this could be a big problem because now it's allowed this rook over here to basically take these pawns. So I push up over here, rook to d2, looking to target this bishop, look to target this pawn, and he attacks my king. I bring the king back, and he brings the bishop to attack the knight, and I bring this knight back here, looking to trade off this, because if he takes here, he can take with the rook. He brings the rook back, which is the only good move that he had. I trade off the knights, and I take this bishop. Now at this point, this is where I kind of lost my advantage. He takes there, and I take with the rook. What I should have done was I should have gone a takes b5, creating these connected pass pawns, and work on just bringing them up. Because if I take here, I'm one move away from taking here, and it's gonna be really hard to stop my advance. However, I take with the rook, and it really hurts my position. So after we trade off the bishops, I'm just in a worse spot because he's targeting those two pawns there. He takes the c6 pawn. I push a5, he goes there, and it's basically a rook endgame where I am down a good portion and he's slowly improving his position, and I really don't have anything to really compete with. So he ends up winning this game. We go all the way to the very end, but it's not interesting. So I go into the second game after losing my first one. It feels like a very common thing in these tournaments lately that I lose the first game and then buckle up and do well for the rest of my tournament. So in this, I play white. I go e4, he goes into the Caro-Kann, so I go into my King's Indian attack here, which probably usually takes every Caro-Kann player out of their prep. I know it would take me out of my prep because you don't know what to do. And he closes down the center here. I think that's a great idea because I want to, one, stop this knight from advancing. This bishop's trapped here. looking to get this pawn structure here and cramp his position. So he goes G6, looking to this bishop out. I get the knight over here to F3. He goes that bishop to G7, and I close down the center. He brings the knight over here. I'm looking to go here. I bring this bishop here. I'm down to trade this off if he's down. And he goes to attack the center right away. I lock that down. He gets his knight over here to C6, really targeting this pawn. I then go queen to E2. He goes A6. I'm thinking to start a minority attack on this side, so I push over here to A3 just to try to stop something. That's an inaccuracy. What I should have done instead was I should have gone H4 and really start to attack this king side here. But I don't do that. And he starts to take over the center. I trade off these pieces, and he brings the queen out to start an attack. So then now they have multiple pieces coming down on this pawn. And I bring this queen over here to attack this. It's an inaccuracy because the knight can attack here, hitting the queen. I'm gonna have to retreat anyways. And so what I did, because I'm making the best of a bad situation, I take with the bishop. He then takes with the e-pawn, which I thought was weird because I would think that he would go here, but I'm guessing he wants to keep this castle position intact. So I castle, and he brings this bishop here to kind of lock back this position and give this bishop something to do, I guess. I get the knight out. It is buoyed by this queen. I'm trying to get it onto this square and attack this bishop. He castles, and I get my knight where I want it to be. He brings the queen back to C7, and I try to just fortify this knight with this pawn. He attacks, and I bring it back. I was thinking I could take here, but he just makes that position better, and it's really not like I'm in a good spot. So I brought it back. He goes F6 to attack my center. I just take. He takes with the rook, and now I create this knight outpost here because if he trades, then I have a nice, great knight. He's gonna have to trade off the strong bishop to kind of ruin the center. So we take. He brings the rook over here to the center. I just develop my bishop. I'm looking to get my rooks in. He brings this pawn over here to attack, and I'm guessing to crash my king side. I wanted to stop the advancement of that pawn right away, so I bring my queen over here to F3. He goes rook to F to E8, looking to get this in. I don't see much of a threat here the whole time. So I go rook A to C1, attacking the queen. Queen comes out, and that was a mistake because now I'm able to get this rook in with tempo. There's nowhere for this queen to go except for retreating this way, which allows me to get this rook over here. And what I did next is instead of bringing this rook over here to C1, which was the best move to just kind of centralize the rooks and make my position better, I took the bishop here. The reason being, if he takes here, I have a nice fork on the queen and the rook, and I'm getting the bishop for it. Even though it's a bad bishop, I figured that was a good trade. And he sees this, gets scared, and pulls out, and that shoots my eval bar up to 10 because now I have a really strong position and I'm looking pretty. So looking here, naturally, you think that the best move is to go knight takes F7, which is the best according to the engine. What I did instead is I went rook to E1 to centralize my pieces. I'm up so much material, it's not that bad of an idea. I just want to make my pieces better. He trades off the bishop for the knight. I go ahead and I take with the rook, and I have a lot of good pieces here. He offers a rook trade here, and I take queen to D5. One, taking the pawn out of the center, really ruining his center control, and one hitting this king. So I take the pawn with tempo. He brings the rook back to defend the king here, and I take this other pawn with my bishop. Now that this rook is pinned to the king, he can't take back. I'm feeling good. So he brings the rook to attack the queen. I just traded off, the reason being, queen takes here, I take the check, he takes back, rook comes here, and now I'm up a whole piece, and the king is struggling. So I bring the rook here, and we got a nice little rook endgame. There's really nothing he can really do. I'm gonna push this pawn up, and after I push here, there's really no way that he can stop it. And after he makes this bad move, I'm able to promote my pawn. You can't get really here because I'm gonna push. I go here, it's covered by the bishop. I'm gonna win this game. He resigns, and I win my second game. I'm very happy with my performance there. Unfortunately for my third game, my opponent did not show up. He quit the tournament, so I got a forfeit victory, which doesn't help my elo gain at all. On a 75-minute game, you're waiting for over an hour and a half, 2 hours for your game to end. So I get the win, but I really wish I had played another opponent. So we go into the last game here. I'm playing as white, and I go E4. My opponent goes into a Caro-Kann. So we got into the King's Indian attack right away. My opponent right away says, yeah, I don't know what to do against this. And I was like, that's the point. I play this so most Caro-Kann players have no idea what to do. He pushes up over here to E5, which is pretty normal, I would say. I would say most people go knight to F6 here. So I bring my knight to attack this pawn, and he pins the knight to my queen. That's fine. I say, what are you gonna do with that bishop? We trade off, and I take with the queen here, because if he takes here and I take here, you get the queen take. and I'm worse because of it, because I lose my castling right. So I take with the queen. And what I do here is I take here, because if he takes back, I'm able to grab this pawn and be up a pawn in the game. So he brings the knight out here, attack this pawn. Obviously you take, and he gets a little bit more activity with his pieces, but I'm a little bit better overall. I can trade off a knight if I want to. But what I do instead is I go c3 here, trying to stop any advance of this knight getting in here. He castles, and this is where I feel comfortable trading off that knight. I traded with the queen, trying to keep the center intact. He attacks with the f5 pawn, and I throw a check here. King moves. I just try to develop the bishop. The queen comes to defend that bishop. I bring my bishop out to try to castle, and he pushes here. I just drop my bishop back, not a big deal. Rook at a to c8. I was really expecting this rook move here to pin this queen, but he ended up not putting it over here on c8 instead, covering this. I didn't think that was much of a threat. So what I did is I just castled, and then he moves his rook over here, looking to pin against the queen here. I then bring my rook over here to e1, trying to centralize my rooks as much as possible. He brings the queen over here, offering a queen trade, and I say gladly, I'll take it. I feel like I have a pretty solid pawn structure. He's missing 2 central pawns over here, whereas I'm only missing my 1. And I bring this bishop here. I'm looking to trade this off and create even more of a weak structure. He brings the rook to defend that, and I bring my rooks into the game. So he drops out. I offer a trade of rooks. Probably not the best. What I should have done instead was take here. He then goes knight to g6, trying to get some, I'm guessing an attack here, but I can just move my bishop at any point. I centralize my rook, looking to attack this bishop. And now he gets the pawn out of the way, and I pin this knight to the rook. There's no way to unseat this bishop, so the rook's gonna have to move, and we're gonna damage the structure. So after he moves the rook here, I take the knight anyways, which is a mistake, because after he takes, I just move my king out of the pin, and I need to push, because what I need to do is I need to get this bishop back in the game, and it's useless at this point. So I push up to b4, he pushes rook to c6, I push up to c5, not wanting to take back, but pushing this forward, creating a strong connected 3 pawns over here. So he goes to attack. I just bring my king to defend, and he goes king to g8, trying to get his king in the game. So I back out, looking to trade off the rooks. He allows the trade. He's trying to get his king in, and I push here. What I should have done instead is lock down this side, but I was afraid that if he was to push here, I would disrupt my pawn structure. So I pushed over here on f3 to lock down the structure, because there's nothing he can really do on this side. So he continues pushing his king forward, and I lock down here, and he starts pushing on this side. So I bring my bishop here, trying to attack this, and I need to get my king here before he gets his king here, which I'm able to do. He pushes his pawns, but there's really nothing that's gonna be able to stop it, because if he were to take here, this is locked down, we're sitting pretty. So I bring my bishop here to support this push here. He then locks down the center, and because of that, I can move my king and get it into the center. He can't really break in, so I'm feeling very good about where my king's at. I push here, looking to push here and not take back, but to push forward. He brings the king. I bring this here just to, if he goes up here, I have this, and I'm sitting very pretty at that point. So after going king to e6, I get my king over here on e4. He brings the king back, and I'm just getting it here. I'm looking to really just cramp this bishop as much as possible. This king really can't get in, so I'm feeling good. I'm worried though about this. That was my biggest worry. Apparently, according to the engine, I'm completely fine. After pushing over here to b6, I guess I have enough time to really make the queen before they're able to do anything. So after the trade, I push here. He brings the bishop back to stop the promotion, and I take here. The reason why this is brilliant is because I get this pawn for free. He can't take back because there's no time to save the queen. And so after pushing here, I just centralize this rook. Any plans for him promoting are dashed. He brings the king to f6. But after getting my king here, I'm going to get this bishop. There's nowhere else for it to run. I'm gonna win the game. And so I finished this tournament 3 out of 4 and bring my classical rating up from about 940 to up to 1030. And my next tournament is going to be the North American Open in Las Vegas. You can see this video here, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.